The irony of this podcast is that my clients do call me daddy. Hi, I'm back with my next episode. I am the Violatrix, and this is my second episode for my podcast series. If you saw one, or if you didn't see one, go back and watch one. It gives you the full foundation of what is a Findom, who am I, and what do I do. And I thought that the natural progression of things would be to slide into all the breakdowns of fetishes and kinks in which I specialize. And if you're faint of heart, you probably want to tune out at this point. So what is Findoming? Findoming is anything that falls under the umbrella of the kink and fetish of a man that wants to be dominated, or he wants to submit to a more powerful woman whom he typically refers to as mistress or goddess. And that's what my clients call me. Sometimes they call me daddy, which I don't love, by the way. And I know there's like 2 or 3 of you, my top guys, that are like, she doesn't like being called daddy. I prefer mistress or goddess. Now, there you know. Now you know. So I want to go into the breakdown of, again, the categories of these kink and fetish, the ones that are most requested. Of course, there's a million out there that I've never heard of, but these are the ones that are most requested. Very quickly, who does this apply to? American men, European men, and just so that you're clear on this Findoming, femdoming, dominatrix, this kink and fetish is not new, and it was born out of Europe. I mean, Europe is so much older than the USA, and they have much different views on sex, and they have just a more open, more liberal mindset on the kink and fetish lifestyle. So, like a lot of your big kink and fetish websites will come out of Netherlands, Amsterdam, Germany. Don't get me started on the Germans. They are some of my craziest, most radical clients as far as their kinks and fetishes. But understand that the USA is a country that was built by, religious Puritans, by, pilgrims seeking religious freedom. So we are still very backwards in the way we view sex and kink and fetish and all of these things. So my clients are typically your next door neighbor, your boss, your employee, the guy next door. But my clients do run globally. I really want to break into the Dubai market. I haven't yet. I don't think they have access to the platform for which I work. And if you want to see more about me, you can definitely go to my website, theviolatrix.com. So let's talk about the kinks and fetishes. The number one that men come to me for is humiliation. And humiliation can involve anything from me calling them fat, lazy, stupid. Specifically, a lot of times deals with SPH, small penis humiliation. A lot of these guys, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. Were they born this way, or did they find out they were this way? I really am not sure. I think it's either or, but they have a micro penis or a super small penis, or they're flaccid, they fail to get hard, and they want to be degraded and humiliated for this. Do I see them on cam? Absolutely. Do often they send me dick pics of something that looks like a toe? 100%. And if a guy sends me an unsolicited micro penis dick pic, hell hath no fury like what I will unleash on him. But a lot of these guys with micro penises want to have their dick graded, which of course I won't do for free. So the humiliation, I have a billionaire client who likes to be scolded in a way that his father demeaned him because he didn't become a billionaire on his own. He inherited his father's business, and he liked me to make him cry. I have a brand new client who is a retired attorney, and he has a force feed fetish. He likes to be force fed. Now, I typically don't take on force feeding clients because there's an ethical, moral compromise for me. So I will ask them, give me your height, give me your weight, and I'll quickly type it into Google. I'll type it into a BMI, and I'm like, you're one hamburger away from a heart attack. I'm not doing it. I'm not having blood on my hands. But I did allow this guy to slip through. He's 6'4", but he's 400 pounds. He got naked from me on camera. I don't know how he wipes himself. Like, I don't know how he functions. He had so much difficulty finding his penis during the session because his wife wasn't there to lift up. Of course, she doesn't know. But anyway, he wants to be humiliated, he wants to be called my fat piggy, my Zaftig loser, my force feed sub, he's just anything. And I struggle with this because I was not like a bully in school. If you ask anybody that knew me in middle school or high school, I'm like the nicest person. So does it come naturally for me to call this guy a fat ass loser? No. And I often run out of words and he has to tell me. Like, one of my clients is a gooner and he likes to be called like stroke bot, jerk junkie. And these guys have to tell me, like, one of my first questions is after I find out they're a fetish or kink, like, what do you like to be called? Because the vocabulary is so tremendous and they have trigger words. So, okay, so tease and denial, humiliation. Humiliation usually goes hand in hand with tease and denial, and that will be me getting in some sexy outfit on camera or just my voice, and then going into my character, the Violatrix, and telling them, what would you do if I was standing in front of you with my silky black hair laying over your shoulders as I take my long skinny fingers and my sharp red black nails, my red nails, and I squeeze them into your cheek. I open your mouth, I spit into it, I smack you across the face, and I tell you what a fucking loser you are and that you will never get close to a woman like me. Not in a million years are you fit to do anything short of licking the bottom of my shoes. You fucking loser. Zero, absolutely 0 point to you living. So this is the kind of thing that they want. And then they get like super excited. So if I'm on camera, I'm going to be moving seductively. I'm going to be speaking seductively. I'm going to be teasing and taking down a strap or turning around and showing, a part of my body that's seductive, that sort of thing. And if it's just on the phone, I am an amazing wordsmith. So if they're into tease and denial and that sort of thing on the phone, I can definitely paint a beautiful scenario. The force feeding, I haven't actually gotten to this with my client yet. I'm trying to stave it off because he wants me to drizzle greasy pizza over him, even metaphorically, even in a fantasy scenario. He does want IRL. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. We're negotiating that right now. But he wants to be force-fed whole pizzas and all sorts of things and have them falling out of his mouth. Going back to the tease and deny, I do have a client, a young guy in LA whose parents are famous, so I can't say much more than that. But he likes to be forced to drink milk, a lot of it, and then I insult him and make him choke himself with a dildo until he pukes it up. That's his tease and denial. So exposure. Let me get to exposure because exposure is absolutely one of my favorite fetishes. It used to be really popular, and now because of terms of service, there's a lot of platforms and websites that simply don't allow it. But exposure deals with exposure, blackmail, extortion. These are men that want you to walk that very fine line of fully ruining their lives. Back in the early days of platforms and websites that deal in findoming, femdoming, we used to have something called Team Viewer. It's little known and lesser understood these days. Probably the only people that are going to know it would be in tech. But Team Viewer was a program you could download, and it would send you a code, and you would send it to the other person. You'd both download it, and then you would take over their computer. So you could literally, and this was allowed on services until it wasn't, but this is my favorite thing to do. You could go in and drain their bank account in real time with their permission. I used to have contracts I would make them sign. I remember I used to work in my guest room when I lived in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I had a whole room dedicated to it, and I had contracts, and I had applications. I used to make them fill out all sorts of, immediately, without ever seeing their face, initial conversation, name, address, date of birth, social security number, bank account number. My billionaire client in New York City, I have his address, his bank accounts. I don't do anything with it, but I do tease him with it. I may have done something once, but I do tease him with it from time to time. But TeamViewer was amazing because you could drain them in real time while they're watching by taking over their computer. And then you could go in and like start to compose an email to their wife at the same time, not necessarily send it, but these guys get off on the danger. They want to be on that razor sharp edge of total ruin. And this is important to understand. When a guy comes to you and says, I'm into exposure, I'm into SPH, small penis humiliation, I'm into sissification, there's no two clients that are ever going to be alike. So as a woman, if you're doing this or if you're following me or listening to me for education, please understand that if you go right out of the gates assuming, oh, he's into sissification, get on your knees and suck this BBC. Well, some sissies, sissification is the fetish of dressing up, makeup, fur, pantyhose, stockings, lipstick, also leather, corsets, thong pantyhose, anything silky. It runs the gamut. Just picture, the best way to picture a sissy is a guy that would love to go into your walk-in closet with you and play dress up. That's the best way. And he wants to be treated like your bestie. He wants to be dressed up, taken out for cocktails, and flirt with men. That's their ultimate dream. But if you go into a sissification session assuming all sissies are the same, you will lose that client because there are sissies that want to be like me, look like me, be my bestie, but their dream is to be peed on or just be close to me by me. If you go into that saying, get on your knees, suck this BBC, some of them are going to be like, oh, absolutely not. I am completely alpha male. I have guys in the military, I have professional athletes that will put on a bra and panties, turn on the camera, they'll be like, don't I look pretty? And I'm like, so feminine. So feminine, and their muscles are just bulging out of the bra strap. And how they, and I'm going to tell you something. Some of these guys' asses, like in the corset and the garters, you can't believe how good some of these guys' asses are. But anyway, it is quite a scene. Like you'll see a big American, like an eagle, and then they've got like, oh, I can't get my bra. It's insane. But anyway, you never want to assume that two clients are this. No two are alike, and you don't want to go into any fetish assuming. This is why if you're following me to learn, you need to ask a series of questions qualifying what it is that they like before you jump in. Because if you take the fantasy in the wrong direction, you're going to lose the client. So blackmail, extortion is some of my favorite. A lot of them want to be recorded by me, and then I put clips of it up on Twitter, or I put clips of it up on Instagram or something, and I expose them, and then they have to pay me and beg me to take it down. There's times I put clips up, and then I walked away. I went to make dinner for the kids, and I forgot I left it up, and I come back, and there's like, $5,000 in my account because they just kept sending me money thinking that I was holding out. I just forgot to take it down. So, I don't recommend that you do that. But, yeah, blackmail, extortion. But if you're not really good at it, you shouldn't be messing around with it because you could ruin someone's life. And if that's their ultimate goal, I would not suggest taking that client because there are women. I have many clients that will call me and say, I was extorted and ruined by a woman on the platform you work for. And I'm like, well, shame on you because it says right here that I'm phone with Cam. You should have verified that the femdom, the Findom is who she says she is when you contact her. So you were dealing with some guy hiding behind a camera, hiding behind a phone, and then he took your video of you, bending over and fucking yourself with a dildo, and he's threatening to send it to your boss unless you pay him $20,000. So that happens a lot. So if you're a client and you're worried about, playing in these fetishes, find someone who specializes in it. Find someone with feedback. Cuckolding. Many of my clients are cucks. Most of my clients are cucks. Cuckolding is actually a Shakespearean term. Cuckolding was out of the idea that back in old England, old European times, when the men would go off to harvest or to war, and the wife was left on the homestead, on the farm, she took a lover, she took the farm boy in. It's just like you see in, like, I think the beginning of, like, The Princess Bride. And she takes on this lover, and then the husband comes back from war or from harvest, and now he is sleeping in the barn, and she's got the young barn hand, the farm hand in her bed, and the husband now effectively becomes a cuckold. So it's taking a man that once was in a position of power and demeaning him and demoting him to this position of relative submission to the woman and sometimes to the woman's lover. That is a cuckold. That's what separates it out from any other fetish, is because it's typically dealing with a woman who can also be referred to as a hot wife. The cuckoldress, or the woman involved in cuckolding the man, can be called a cuckoldress or a hot wife. And that's the fetish. So again, don't ever assume that two cucks are the same, because you will often have a cuck who just wants to come to you and serve you, but sometimes they want to serve a full couple, and they want to be forced to their knees and told, get on your knees and suck this dick. And some of them, if you say that, they'll be like, oh my God, no, that's absolutely not what I wanted. So you have to qualify in the beginning of the phone conversation. The BBC fetish, again, BNWO, Black New World Order. BNWO, Black New World Order, and BBC are two fetishes that are in the white man category. Again, white men making up the majority of any of these kinks and fetish, client base. That's where they just truly believe that the black man is more masculine, alpha, superior. He's the ultimate human specimen. He's the ultimate species of masculinity, endurance, stamina, physical prowess, and of course, dick prowess of the ultimate cock. So that's the BBC fetish and BNWO. When they ask for Black New World Order, that's where they want a phone call where they want you telling them that their wife's going to get pregnant. They're going to be a cuck to a black guy who's going to get their wife pregnant, and they're going to be raising the black babies. It's an absolute, it's a popular fetish. So they want to talk about Black New World Order, or they want to just worship BBC. And a lot of my clients are upset because I don't have BBC men at the ready to, like, go on cam with me and, like, insult them, or, that makes me lesser of a Findom, but that is a huge ask. And I am often able to patch people in on calls, but for the most part, that's a really specialty fetish. Encasement, I don't do any sort of encasement. That's where a guy wants to be encased in something, or tied up with, like, shrink wrap or duct tape, and they want to be encased in something with just maybe a blowhole, like for their nose or their mouth. And I don't specialize in it. I don't do anything. I mean, the site that I work for has vacuuming fetish, has yawning, burping. I mean, pretty much any bodily function. I don't deal in any of that. I never have. I do have a few clients that are interested in being human furniture. I have one, his name is Human Footstool, and another's name that is Human Ashtray. One wants to be, have cigarettes put out on him, even if it's just I'm putting out my very hot, coal, burning ash cigarette right on your white flesh. Oh, look at it burn. Smell that sizzle. That's what his thing is. Another guy that wants to be a human footstool, he wants me to put my feet up on him. That's a really hard one to do, because how many scenarios can you talk about him being a human footstool? But I had a guy one time that had a death wish fetish. He just wanted, he literally was like Wile E. Coyote. He wanted to see how many different ways I could kill him. And I literally was going in my mind back through, like, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote scenarios. I'm driving you in a car at 160 miles an hour off a cliff. I'm dropping an anvil on your head. I'm putting dynamite in your ass and your mouth and setting it on fire. I'm dousing you with gasoline. Here I go. I light the match. There was nothing that, I think the last one was some sort of like a pin board, nailing him to a cross. And I just, that just got monotonous. I wasn't into that. Excuse me. Foot fetish and stockings, that's so easy because all you have to do, especially if it's a cam session, is get a pair of nylons and put those on. And you got your bare feet. When a guy has a foot fetish, it sometimes is the pedicure. It sometimes is, sometimes it's a long skinny foot. Sometimes it's the fetish for a high arch. It's always a fetish for a soft pad. The padded part of the foot, like right underneath here, that's a soft pad, high arch. Some are small feet. Some are organized toes. Are the toes organized? Are they not out of sync? And some are very long. Some have a fetish for a very long foot. Some have some have a fetish for dancers' feet. They're like banged and bruised, like a ballerina's feet. But the high arch is pretty much across the board. And then all you have to do is slowly take off your heel, show them these beautiful pantyhose that I've bought. Imagine me taking these pantyhose, putting your face right next to my foot as I slide the nylon over my toes, across my soft pad, up, going along my high arch, over my heel. Watch it going up my calves, my shapely calves, my ankle, all the way up to my knee, to my thigh. Imagine me rubbing this up against your face. Can you imagine the sensation of the nylons? Sends chills up your spine. And then depending on where they want to go with the fetish or how hard into it they are, sometimes I'll tell them, I'm going to take off these pantyhose. Excuse me. Sometimes I will tell them, I'm going to take off these pantyhose and I'm going to tie them around your neck and I'm going to choke you. I'm going to take these pantyhose off and I'm going to tie them in a figure 8 around your nuts and tug it so tight until your nuts turn purple. You'd like that, wouldn't you? And that brings me to another fetish, which is CBT. Again, one of my favorite fetishes, cock and ball torture. This is not that common, but it is absolutely a popular one. My favorite story was a guy that called me. His wife was going to the Hamptons to their house. He was in Manhattan. His wife was going to the Hamptons for the weekend. He booked me like 5 days in advance. Started our call on a Friday night about 7 o'clock. He had a big thing of whiskey, like a big tumbler glass of whiskey. He had encyclopedias, medical dictionaries. He had a homemade vice, like the stockades, like in colonial times. He had a vice to push his balls through, and then drop encyclopedia after encyclopedia. So the whole session was how many books could we stack up and drop them from what height on his nuts as they were pulled through the vice. So I mean, you have guys that, you tell them go get a hairbrush out of the bathroom, your wife's hairbrush, and I want you to whack your nuts like 10 times with the hairbrush. There's guys that it's almost an art where you take pantyhose or a hair scrunchie or something or some sort of a rope and you tie up their balls in like a figure 8 and around their cock, and then you tie it in a tight knot and you watch it turn purple. They like that. But again, I have deduced there are certain ethnicities of men that have a high tolerance for that. Most men, you go near their nuts, they would scream. But there are men that I have seen their nuts sustain things. When I was early on in my years of doing this, I had a gentleman that contacted me from Canada. He said, I need you to bring 6 girlfriends to Canada. I'm going to fly you first class. Each one of you is going to get $10,000, more from me. But I need you to all come with 6-inch platform stilettos and step on my nuts until they're decimated. I was salivating at the opportunity. And I called. I was like, I don't have anybody that. First of all, no one knew I was doing this. But I was like, I have no one I can call. I called my sister, and I was like, hey, and she's like, I can't do that. I'm like, you do this to men for free. Are you kidding me? So I couldn't find 5 girls, let alone 1 girl. So I lost that opportunity. But men who are into cock and ball torture, the pain threshold will absolutely floor you. And again, like these guys will take like power tools, they'll have all sorts of tools from the garage ready to, at the ready. CEI is a popular one. I don't like it because it deals in body fluid. It makes me sick. But CEI is come eating instructions where they want to jerk off and then be told that they have to eat their own semen. They often want to jerk off in their hand or on the floor and then tell them to get on all fours and lap it up. So that's cum eating instructions, and it involves everything from taking control of them at the onset and controlling them the whole way through until they ejaculate, and then forcing the cleanup in whatever. Sometimes it deals with doing it in a spoon. If they spill a drop, you torture them. Sometimes it has to do with them doing it in a cup and making them drink it. I'm almost even getting sick talking about this. Tease and denial, we covered that, and that can really be anything from acting like the bully girl in high school. A lot of guys, when you do tease and denial, they literally want to go back to their high school years when a cheerleader would tell a bunch of football players, take this kid in the bathroom and give him a swirly. A lot of my clients want swirlies. That's where someone takes you, drags you into the bathroom by the back of your neck or your hair and forces your face into the toilet and flushes the toilet. Sometimes it's dirty toilet, sometimes it's clean, but a lot of my clients with the tease and denial and bullying and domination, they want swirlies. Chastity is when someone tells you they want to be locked up. They don't mean in a cage. They mean have their cock locked up. Amazon sells chastity devices. Chastity is where the dominatrix, the femdom, the findom puts the guy in a chastity device. Again, you can get them on Amazon. And they run the gamut from totally concealed underclothing to very obvious. And typically, the submissive, the one in chastity, will send the keys. He'll mail them to a mistress's or a goddess's P.O. box. And he can't get hard, ejaculate, really do anything until you mail him the keys back if he's a good boy or you're extorting him. But oftentimes they keep the keys. But they are in a chastity device. You make them go to work, send you a picture with a timestamp in front of something that shows the day and time, and then you make them wear it to work all day. You sometimes send them to the bathroom throughout the day and tell them they can take it off, or make fun of them, or tell them to write something on their dick in indelible marker, make fun of them sort of thing. Make fun of them sort of thing. They all want to be made fun of. They all want to be demeaned. Hot wife we covered. Hot wife is basically a cuckoldress, or the wife that's sleeping with her gym, her coach at the gym, or she's sleeping with the next door neighbor and basically just demeaning the husband, emasculating him in any way. Gooning is a more recent thing. That's where these guys will just picture the old cartoons, like the Looney Tunes, and picture something like swirling in front of their head like a target. That's all these guys do. They want to sit, they want to stare at something, and they want to be almost hypnotized into this state of drooling, gooning, stroking for days and hours and weeks. And it's just, these are my stroke bots, these are my jerk junkies, and they typically have trigger words. All my clients want to be called good boy. If they're a sissy, they want to be called good girl. But the gooning ones, that sometimes trips over into hypno, which you're not really allowed to say anymore, hypno, because there's terms of service. It deals with medical. I'm sure some guy spent, $10,000 on some phone sex operator or OnlyFans girl and then told his wife that he was hypnotized into doing it. I can only imagine that's what happened because we're not allowed to say it anymore, hypnotherapy. So, but that gooning and hypnotherapy are the same thing. You're a good boy. You're a dirty boy. You're a naughty boy. Keep stroking. You're a fucking loser. Keep stroking. Keep staring at my face. Keep staring at my feet. Good stroke bot. Good jerk junkie. Keep going. Stop. Now start again. That's gooning. Servitude. There's guys that have contacted me for years. Can I come clean your pool? Can I wear a French maid uniform? Fuck no. I don't want you anywhere near me, near my house, near my children. No. And the idea that, and there are mistresses that have these guys, fixing their car, running their errands. If you're a single woman and you're a lifestyle mistress, okay, I get it. There's no way I would want these guys. I mean, that they get off on the idea of shining your shoes, giving you a pedicure, cooking your meals. That holds no interest to me. And servitude of that level, it's hard for me to play that online because I can't. There's only so much I can play with it. So I don't really deal in that. But there are lifestyle mistresses that have these guys for that reason. My attitude is if you can't pay me, you're of no use to me. Religious themes we talked about. Anytime you hear a guy with a Southern accent, I don't mean to throw you all into a box, but typically when you hear a guy with a Southern drawl, there's going to be some religious theme that's going to run through that conversation. And that's my jerkin' for Jesus guy. That's the guy that, wants to be spoken to, sung hymns and Amazing Grace, while he works himself into a lather and or wants to be spoken to in tongues, which, yes, I had to do that once. That was no easy feat. Role play is a very common one. These guys will come to you before a session. They'll send you like a 3-page script. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Role play, like, and I used to in the early years. I had the maid's costume. I had the cheerleader costume. I had the dominatrix. Like, the guys that come to me with role play and ask me to dress up something, there's just absolutely no way anymore. I'm too lazy. I'm too old for it. No, I'm not doing it. But it typically involves, oh, I came home and I found my wife with this guy. This is your name. You're Trisha, and you're this many years old. And they have actual, like, scripts drawn out of things that they want you to say to them. It's crazy. And then another time, it will be that you're the girlfriend of his best friend, and the best friend leaves the room, and then you're hot for him. These are, like, the top role play scenarios. So hot wife, gooning. Let me think of what else we have. Encasement, tease and denial, CBT. So ATM I touched on before, and I will probably wrap this up on this one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you 3 very quick stories about my most shocking clients. I had a client years ago who was a sissy, and he was one of the trainers for a professional football team. And he was the guy that received the professional football players. I'm not telling you which team it is. He received the professional football players, like the rookies, on their first season. He would receive them several weeks before the rest of the team showed up for training camp. And he was known to all of the players. Now, in this case, these players happened to be black. I think there were a few white guys sprinkled in, but in this case, these were the young black new recruit football players. And they would go over to my client's house, and he would answer the door in like a thong and like a pink bow, and he'd be naked otherwise with a pink pedicure. And this was a big burly guy with a big beer belly and a hairy chest. And he would invite them in, make them cocktails. They would sit down. And then at some point when all the guys got there, he would end up getting in the middle of the room on the floor, and all of these guys would take turn stuffing his mouth with their parts. And then it would graduate to any of his parts. So he was just getting, just double teamed, double DP, double penetrated. But these were actual football players. And this wasn't just like a one-time thing. This was like handed down by like the seasoned players to the new recruits. It was like and he said sometimes they brought their girlfriends. So I was like, what do their girlfriends look like? He's like tall, thin, blonde. I was like, what are the girlfriends doing? He's like, sometimes they just watch, sometimes they make out with each other. So anyway, that is absolutely a true story. And why did he call me? Because he wasn't allowed to have any fun or orgasm. So he would call me in the days following, sometimes multiple times, to release himself to this incredible fantasy of serving the perfect black men athlete specimens. I have another client who is, his wife is a cuckoldrix, and she would often surprise him with things like the most wild of things. Like one time she took him to a nail salon, and everybody was leaving the nail salon, and there were like 3 or 4 Asian guys that were running this salon, and they closed up, they locked the doors, they pulled the blinds, and they took, my client's name was Tommy. They took Tommy to the back of like the waxing room, and they strapped him down, and they waxed him from head to toe. They ripped every hair off of his body. Then once they were done, they hopped up on the table and just started having their way with him, all of them, and basically did so until he was just decimated. So that's a favorite. She also did this to Tommy with the landscapers. After they would be done landscaping for hours in the yard, she'd have Tommy tied up in the doghouse. Like there'd be like a doghouse. There'd be like the dead of summer, like in the Midwest. I can't say what town they were in or what city they were in. But when the landscapers were done, she would stand on the balcony and tell them, unleash my husband and then just have your way with him. So they would do that. And I think probably the story, like I have clients that will go to like the glory holes, and I have clients that I have several in the New York City area that will go to a hotel and, I'll bring guys in off a grinder to do various things to them. We'll arrange some sort of a mistress to come over and do things at my whim. Forced intox is another one I forgot to mention. Forced intox is a popular one. I don't think you're allowed. It violates terms of service on a lot of. If you go to my YouTube, I have a forced intox. It was a guy from Poland. He was a young, 20-something-year-old Polish kid, and he called me. I happened to be recording the session. I have a second cell phone. I happened to be recording it, and the actual session was caught live. I kid you not when I tell you, he called me again 2 years later, and I happened to have my cell phone right there, and I started recording that. Both sessions with this forced intox kid are on my YouTube channel, and you can see what forced intox is. You're just forcing him to take a drink, and he's just sending you money as he gets more and more drunk. You're insulting him, you're demeaning him. But the last story I'm going to tell you about, and this is my most horrific story. I mentioned earlier that certain states, parts of the country, parts of the world are more, you can almost define them by fetishes. In my particular case, Germany has been the most wild of fetishes. I had a German client come to me, and he said, online on my platform, "Are you okay with ATM?" Now, ATM stands for ass to mouth. In the old days of camming, it used to mean me using something to do ass to mouth, using a dildo to do ass to mouth. Of course, I don't do that. So nowadays, it mostly, in the domination world, it's going to mean, are you okay if I do ass to mouth on camera for you? So in this case, I was like, yeah, I hadn't taken one in a long time. It had kind of died off, this fetish. So I said, okay, let's do it. So I took the fetish. We planned the session. I took the session, and he calls me. And he had the most white blonde hair, the bluest of eyes. He was so perfect specimen, German. He was just absolutely beautiful. He had this sweet smile. And I was like, oh, this is going to be nice. He had this very Swedish IKEA kitchen, immaculate kitchen. And then he had a bunch of dildos there. And I was like, okay. One of them was suctioned onto the cabinets. One of them was suctioned onto the middle of the table. He doesn't say a word. He just starts grinning at me like a serial killer. He strips down. He was in great shape, by the way. He jumps up on top of the kitchen table and just squats right on this very large dildo. It horrified me. I can't imagine this thing going into my body. It was that big. And he's just hopping up and down like it's an exercise class, like no big thing. I'm like, okay. Well, I knew he had said ATM, but maybe my archaic mind back when things were cleaner, I don't know. Well, when he said ATM, what he was actually asking me was, when it comes out, it's going to look like a fudgesicle, chocolate pop. And he hops off this thing and proceeds to show me how he's going to make it all clean for me. And I was gagging and vomiting. I'm on camera. I'm gagging and vomiting, and he is just smiling with this. Remember the Grinch, the way the Grinch is smiling, that same grin. The last time I ever saw it, and I never want to see it again. He called me one more time for that fetish, and he paid me incredibly well. But I pressed record on Zoom, and it alerted him, and he never called me again. I was so glad that he didn't. And that's probably my most disgusting story. I have shocking ones, but that's my most disgusting one. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this. In my following podcast, I'm going to take real clients on air. If you have any questions, write them. Let me know. Reach out. Tell me what you want more deep dive. What questions do you have? My content is only as strong as the questions. So thank you for joining.
Qu'est-ce que j'appelle te nommer?